Hello everybody. This tutorial is about developing and deploying apps for Google App Engine using a combination of Scala and Java. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, Google App Engine is what is known as a platform as a service that lets you run your web apps over Google's auto-scaling infrastructure. You can specify your own domain name using Google Apps, or you can use a free name on the appspot.com domain. Now, the great part about Google App Engine and really all platform as a service products is that they allow developers to focus on developing and innovating without having to worry about other web related tasks like server maintenance. Google App Engine currently has three different implementations: Python, Java, and Go. Obviously, this tutorial uses the Java implementation, and the beauty of this is that languages with JVM compatible compilers, like Scala, can be run with very little extra effort on the developer's end. One important piece of information to note before we begin is the fact that the Google App Engine environment is tightly sandboxed to allow it to scale your app accordingly. Now, this introduces some restrictions, like not being able to write to the file system. And if these restrictions are going to negatively affect your app, you might reconsider using Google App Engine. Alright, enough intro, let's get going already. Now, before we begin, you need to make sure that you have the necessary software installed. To use the Java implementation of Google App Engine, you need to download both the Java Developer Kit and the App Engine Java SDK. Now you should have Java 7 if you can, as support for Java 6 is being deprecated and will soon no longer be supported. As you can see, I have Java 7 installed. If you wish to follow along exactly with this tutorial, you also need to go grab Scala as well. Now, I will be using Scala version 2.10.1. Now, the other piece of information that you need to install is a tool to help you accomplish the multiple development and deployment tasks common to Google App Engine development. There are multiple options here, including a Google plugin for the Eclipse IDE and two different command line tools, Apache Ant and Apache Maven. Now in my documentation, I go into detail on using Apache Ant, as that is the build tool that will be used throughout the tutorial, and it's a really easy to use tool. Now once you have installed Apache Ant, you simply need to create a build.xml file with your project to configure how Ant will be used within that project. The version of Ant that I will be using is version 1.9.0. Now, before we get into the code examples, I just want to make sure that you understand the directory structure that Google App Engine is expecting. The format used is the WAR format, and it has a very simple structure. The top level directory is aptly named WAR, and inside of this directory you have a directory called web-inf, as well as any resource files that your app needs. You might, for example, create a directory called images for your app's images, or maybe style sheets for the CSS files that your app uses. Inside of the web-inf directory, there are two directories that should together contain all of the class files and jars that your app needs: a classes directory for your app's specific class files, and a lib directory for any jars that your app needs while executing. Any configuration files, such as the deployment descriptor or app engine config file, are also placed inside of the web-inf directory.